Hey booktube, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. I am here today to do, I want to make sure I get the title right, 5 from 5 Victorian Novels Tag, your top 5 Victorian novels from the last 5 years. This is editing Kelly. I can't believe I forgot to say this. This tag was inspired by a video made by one of the Victober hosts, Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, and then Ros from Scallydandling About the Books and Tilly from Tilly Shelf turned it into a tag and tagged me, and I'm so grateful for that. And again, Roz is also a host for Victober this year, which I think is fantastic. But anyway, so this was their inspired idea for a tag. And actually, so I got out my trusty book journal to see what books, what Victorian novels I've read in the last 5 years that I've loved. And actually, it's only going to be the last 3 years. So 2018, mid-2018, I started my booktube channel. And again, I was coming off a really, really long and difficult reading slump, and my husband was just so excited about booktube and had started a channel a few months earlier. And so I just wanted to share booktube with him. And yeah, so but I didn't really know. I didn't know about some of the events that happened during the year. So I missed, I missed Victober in 2018. I just had no idea what was coming. But since then, we have remedied quite a few things. And I think there's no ranking system to this, but it is supposed to be something that you haven't already read. I'm gonna rule out A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, because I read that almost every year. But I want to show you my Dickens pile of what I have read in the last 3 years by Charles Dickens. Oh my god. I would really like to hold this up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to though. Okay, so these are the Charles Dickens novels I have read since 2019. I read The Old Curiosity Shop, Great Expectations, I just finished this month. We'll talk more about that. The Mystery of Edwin Drood, A Tale of Two Cities. This is one, those of you on booktube, make sure you don't spoil it for other people. Not everyone has read this, so I had this book spoiled for me, so that's why I have that disclaimer in there. I read Our Mutual Friend, David Copperfield, and Dombey and Son. And I just can't quite believe most of those books have been buddy reads with Jo Smith. So kudos to Jo. She's such a great buddy reader, and we just really love Dickens. One of my goals is to read all of Dickens' novels. In 2012, I read Little Dorrit, The Pickwick Papers, and Bleak House for the 200th anniversary of Charles Dickens' birth, but we're not counting those, we're not including these, because that was 10 years ago. So what else have I read in terms of Victorian literature since 2019? I read Thomas Hardy's Far from the Madding Crowd. And this is totally because of booktube, I started reading Anthony Trollope. I read The Warden, And then last year for Victober, I read Barchester Towers. It's of course part of the I'm just gonna say the Barchester series, okay? And I am now finally, you guys, I have just started to read Dr. Thorne, which is the next book in that series. So obviously, again, that can't be in the top 5. I think what's fun is that next year we could do this tag and it could be, there could be all kinds of changes. So, my 5, the 5 books that I'm going to choose for this tag, and these are not, I'm not ranking these, although this probably would be 5th, is Thomas Hardy's Far from the Madding Crowd. I really think of Thomas Hardy as kind of on one end of the Victorian spectrum and Dickens on the other. Thomas Hardy is so pastoral, and Dickens is just all about like the gritty urban world of London, in most cases. So anyway, so I did enjoy, this is the only Thomas Hardy book I've read. A lot of you have really inspired me to seek out The Mayor of Casterbridge, and we also own Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I just can't, I'm so sorry, like I'm sure Jude is great, but I just can't bring myself to do that. All right, so the next book I would have to say is Anthony Trollope's Barchester Towers. And I sort of see Trollope as in between Dickens and Thomas Hardy. He's so funny. And even though this is the 2nd book in the series, I actually, some people think that you don't need to read The Warden as part of this series. I think this is a good starting point, just a good introduction to Trollope and his writing style. But one of the things I really love about Anthony Trollope is that I just love the way he talks to the reader. And, you know, he'll say things like, don't worry about this character, they're not going to marry the wrong person, or oh my goodness, we will talk about this character in more depth later. You know, like he's having a conversation with you while you're reading his novel, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So I'm so excited to read more of Trollope. Taking Tea with Catherine, she just did a whole entire video that's just gushing about Trollope, and I love that. I will try to remember to link to her video down below. But yeah, so Trollope I am really excited to read more of. I can see 3 more Trollope books on the other side of the library here. And yeah, so I'm really looking to reading all of this series and then maybe finding some standalone Trollopes. If you have a favorite Trollope, by all means, recommend that down below. Okay, so the next one is, I'm cheating just tiny, at the tiny bit. I would pick The Annotated Alice, which is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. And while I had read these stories before, this annotated version was a completely different reading experience for me. I really, for some reason, aside from poetry, like we forget that this is a Victorian novel. And there is so much in here because it was written for children. There is so much that we just don't recognize, you know, you just don't see it. And so I really, really recommend The Annotated Alice if you are an Alice in Wonderland fan, or if you want to read it and you want to read read a lot of notes. There's also tons of illustrations and introductions in this edition, but this would have to be in my top 5 of the last 5 years, and which leaves me to 4 Dickens books. So I'm going to pick 2 of them. but the four that I think are the best, oh my God, I'm like leaning over here. So this is really hard. I have Great Expectations, Our Mutual Friend, David Copperfield, and Dombey and Son. And on any given day, I could totally change this decision around, but I'm actually gonna choose Great Expectations and Dombey and Son with my top 5. Dombey and Son, I think, is one of Dickens' most underappreciated or underrated novels. I loved it. I thought it was just glorious. I read this for March of the Mammoths earlier this year, and then Great Expectations. I just recently finished. I haven't even had a chance to tell you guys that, other than on Goodreads. And Great Expectation, it feels to me almost like a smaller version of Bleak House. Everything is so tight and controlled. I still struggle with Pip a little bit, but yeah, like it's really a toss-up between David Copperfield and Great Expectations. That is kind of a tie. Now, Dombey and Son, I can't sing the praises of this book enough. Like, it's just outstanding. So anyway, so those are my top 5. I would love to know what your top 5 of the last 5 years are. So if you don't have a channel, feel free to list that down below in the comment section. And even if you do have a channel and you just don't really maybe have the time to make a video or whatever the case may be, and you just want to share them, please list those down below. Tell me what you think of the ones that I've picked. And what's missing. Maybe I have read some other Victorian novels in the last 5 years that did not get mentioned here, but that's okay. And also on my my page, my booktube page, in my community tab, which you can access through your phone or through a computer. Can't access that on a tablet, which sucks. But on my community tab, I have a survey up that I started on October 1st about who is your favorite Victorian author. Obviously, I could not include everyone. I lumped all the Brontes together, which is probably terrible. You know, they're not everybody is mentioned. So there's a lot of comments of, you know, George Eliot, Tennyson. Yeah, so there's definitely more Victorian authors than I had options to include in that survey. But anyway, Dickens is winning right now, I suspect, because, you know, this is my channel and I talk about Dickens quite a bit on it. But anyway, I'm not going to tag anyone. Just, yeah, if you're participating in Victober and you want to do this, like, please do this and let me know so that I can see your top 5 of the last 5 years. Like I said, this is really my top 5 of the last 3 years. But I look forward to doing this again in the future and seeing how it changes over time. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Booktube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.